Thanks a lot for this inspiring talk. I just steal you this one. And in fact, there were many very interesting aspects, and I cannot resist at that point to pick up the citizen science and the crowdfunding initiative, and especially because we're trying out this at the moment with our so-called Ocean Sampling Day, and maybe we should rename it to Open Sampling Day. And if you're interested in that, today at 5 o'clock we'll have our session in the Salle Grand Large, where we invite everybody, especially for sure the Mediterranean, to come and see what we're trying to do with an initiative to bring data sampling together and to share data, to share it, and even to use and involve citizen science and crowdfunding for doing this. Okay, we'll stop here with my advertisement, so it's an advertisement now. And come back to our panelists. And I would think we should split the discussion into directly follow up with you and then coming back to the more legal issues later on, because it might fit here to the warm-up discussion. And for sure involve the audience. So it's hard to see. So first of all, are there questions related to the whole issue of open science? Okay, now the light goes up so I can see it better. I guess there must be questions, so you're all concerned with this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I have to put question in French to Elie. D'après votre exposé, j'ai compris les difficultés que peut poser une discussion entre scientifiques et juristes. Et je me pose les mêmes questions, en fait, concernant deux points. Le premier, la délimitation du plateau continental. Pour un géologue, le plateau continental se limite au niveau de la rupture de pente, shelf break. Mais pour un juriste, c'est une autre définition. La deuxième question concerne les possibilités d'extension des zones économiques exclusives. Qu'en est-il de ce projet? Merci.
Thank you for your two questions. Donc, ce serait un drôle de jeu de rôle que vous me posiez la question en français et que je vous réponde en anglais. Première question, la différence de définition entre les géologues, donc les scientifiques, et les juristes sur le plateau continental. C'est vrai, nous le savons. Pour les scientifiques, c'est la rupture de pente, et les scientifiques avaient gagné en 1958, avec la Convention de Genève de 1958 sur le plateau continental, lorsqu'on définissait le plateau continental par l'isobate 200 mètres. 200 mètres. Donc. Mais depuis, ça a changé. La Convention de 1982 est au départ une convention qualifiée d'océanique. Autrement dit, la définition du plateau continental devenait une définition de distance. On a éliminé toute référence géologique, donc scientifique, et on a retenu la définition par la distance. 200 000 marins au plus. Vous voyez tout de suite que ce n'est pas applicable en Méditerranée. Tout de suite. Donc le plateau continental en Méditerranée ne peut être que l'objet d'une délimitation entre États. On ne tiendra pas compte des questions de profondeur, d'isobate, etc., sauf si dans la négociation entre États, ce sont des éléments que les États veulent prendre en considération. D'accord ? Donc c'est un problème de délimitation. Et la règle la plus répandue, c'est celle de ce qu'on appelle de l'équidistance, n'est-ce pas ? Qui est définie d'une certaine façon en jurisprudence internationale. Donc vous avez raison, il y a là une différence dans le langage ou le concept scientifique et le langage ou le concept juridique. Mais encore une fois, je dis, la pertinence, c'est que ça s'appliquait surtout pour les plateaux continentaux des façades océaniques. Ensuite, la deuxième question, c'est la question des extensions. Là, vous voyez, et ça, beaucoup de mes collègues scientifiques français font systématiquement l'erreur, il n'est jamais question d'extension de la zone économique exclusive. Une zone économique exclusive, elle ne peut pas s'étendre au-delà de 200 000 marins. Elle ne peut pas. Par contre, ce qui peut s'étendre au-delà, c'est le plateau continental. D'accord? Donc voilà, vous me donnez l'occasion. Mais encore une fois, ça ne s'applique pas en Méditerranée. Les hypothèses d'extension de plateau continental n'ont pas leur place en Méditerranée d'une certaine façon. Voilà. Donc voilà pour vous répondre très rapidement. Merci à vous.
Merci. Alors ma question s'adresse aux deux juristes. Alors en français, si vous pouvez...
Non, mais à toi qui as parlé anglais ce matin, je pourrais répondre en anglais.
Bon, ok.
No problem for me at all.
Bon, ok, in English.
He is very fluent in English.
No. I think that there is two main differences between what I understood about your two presentations. I agree about the environmental aspect. In the EZ, about the environmental aspect, you say that you have coordination. About what Elie say about fish populations, and they are crossing all the areas, migrating and stuff like that. But you say that about biological and genetic characteristics of the different sampling and things like this, that it's common access. I'm not sure that it's common access.
Just talk. Should work.
Just directly?
Yeah, you can talk. Voilà.
I'm not sure if I said that biological access. Oh, those are issues. Not that they are. They're issues to look at, given that we're in a semi-enclosed and enclosed sea. But I completely understand that the question of biological genetic access is very particular indeed. And that's why, of course, you have, for example, the Nagoya Protocol. Absolutely. So I would not say that. But it's something that needs to be discussed even at the regional level, perhaps. And again, I'm posing questions. I'm not answering my questions. Is that all right? Okay. Elie, I think for you.
Nothing more to say that just to remind you, are you happy with that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
You're happy?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm fine. So. Just to say that when you look at the Nagoya Protocol, as I said this morning, Nagoya Protocol is not about environment mainly or at first glance. Nagoya Protocol has to do with commercialization, with economic targets, and all the system mechanism of the benefit sharing, as I understood the Nagoya Protocol, as I read it, is precisely that even research, if you make research more easier for researchers, the end of the whole process of the access and benefit sharing is precisely to share benefits. And you have some contracts and some terms for agreement dealing with that issue. So as you can see, it's not really how to make research easier. It's just to manage a process through which researchers can help to access, to develop knowledge, but in the meantime, to then end with a system of economic ending. This is the point what I wish to raise. Two explanations for that, or two elements to try to convince if somebody is not convinced. The first one is that the marine genetic resources in the convention, in the Nagoya Protocol, are under the sovereign rights of the coastal state. It is drafted like that. This is a main principle of the whole of the law of the sea and the whole international law, the sovereign rights and the natural resources for a state. And the second issue for explanation is also that a coastal state, although you have Nagoya Protocol to make the whole process easier, the idea here is to make the whole process and the access easier. Coastal state may in some circumstances raise some barriers, some condition to access to make that easier. He can do that, and he can do that not only through the Biological Diversity Convention, but also through the 1982 Convention. I would like to remind scientists when they are drafting a program of marine science that you have a specific provision in Part 13 to which Nilufer referred this morning, which is Article 246, paragraph 5, little a. Meaning, I'm sorry, because this is very important. You have to keep that in mind. You can draft a program, scientific sound, it sounds very scientific, and when it comes to the administration of a coastal state, he look at that, and he say, okay, I understand, this is science, but this particular science program has something to do with my natural resources. Then I am entitled to say no or to have a discretionary no without other explanation. And the beginning of the whole process was science. But at this time, what happened is that the administration of the coastal state has a right to say, I'm sorry. I can understand. You want to know how many fish are here, what is the geological composition of the continental shelf? Okay, I can understand that. But my own people are telling me this has an impact. This knowledge has an impact on my natural resources. So then or you face a no, or you enter in some kind of discussions. And back to genetic resources, we had this experience with the experience of Mr. Craig Venture in the Med Sea, and Frédéric remember that. They launched a kind of procedure, unfortunately it failed, but we have to keep that in mind. Sorry, I've been long, but...
Excellent. So I have also opinion about Craig Venture, but we'll discuss it personally sometimes. Okay, so please.
Thank you, sir. I'm from Turkey, Bayram Öztürk, Istanbul University. First of all, I would like to congratulate two important and famous legal advisor or jurist. I have learned many things from them. For the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, I think we need consensus to reach agreement between the states to protect marine environment and sustainable fisheries. Because the debate of the exclusive economic zone is going back to the fisheries discussions, fisheries debate. The source is fishing, not genetic resource, not Craig Venture, and not others. We have to remember this. And we need consensus for that, because we really need it. And I'm very happy that CIESM is a good environment to talk all these issues, which very few people knows, but young generation doesn't know much about exclusive economic zone. Secondly, sir, for the open access. Yes, open access journals, open access information is very good, but what you choose in open access in your map is sometimes may be harmful, dangerous, and toxic. So there are lots of maps in open access for the EEZ, and owner of the maker of this map, the scientist, say stop now. He said he doesn't accept this map anymore because there are lots floating many maps in the Mediterranean Sea. So we should be careful for that. Thank you very much.
So I learned about maps, absolutely. So, but still, let's say, considering the idea of open access is that you put something out there, we heard it pretty nicely, and then it starts a debate. And to say, well, it could be even wrong at that point. And for sure, it was wrong. So I apologize for this, my ignorance. I would be really happy if we could put a map out there that is correct. Can we do this?
This is a challenge.
Okay, now I have a problem. So why can't we do this?
We're not talking about correct. It doesn't reflect the reality, because there are disputed areas. The way the map is it makes it look that the whole Mediterranean has been divided up in a way that, frankly, does not accommodate at least Turkey. I'll talk on behalf of Turkey, and I'm sure there'll be other countries who may disagree. So that's the problem with the map. But I don't want to fixate on the map. I think we've already talked about that. But I would like to talk, if I could make a comment about what has been said from the legal issue. We're talking about rights and obligations, EEZs. Sometimes we get very much stuck in that this is a right. I think what we're looking at, and from my perspective, is understanding where we can actually bridge these differences, and from sharing of resources, even the genetic resources itself. And that's why I think Goya is so important, because what it did was to get countries to agree. And I think what they're claiming is that it created some legal clarity. We would like to see that. And from a lawyer, that's what we're trying to do, is create some system where we can avoid dispute and bring what we call cooperation and harmony to the system. So can we do that with marine scientific research? Is there even a problem on that? So we sometimes talk too much about rights, but I think we need to sometimes go beyond that, and that's where the whole issue of cooperation is.
Just if you...
Sorry, can we have a comment on this, and then I would like to come back to you.
I don't want to take more time. Nilufer said everything. We need cooperation, reach agreement, equitable and reasonable solution for the Mediterranean Sea. Simply this. No need more debate, no need more claim, because there are lots of claim, and it's not time to write and discuss all this claim here. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to come back on the marine genetic resources access and the open access to resource in general. I think it's really important to have an harmonization in between the marine scientists and the legal experts. And this is what Frederic has been presenting yesterday about the CIESM Charter on access and benefit sharing that we have just drafted, and we would like to implement for the Ocean and Sampling Day in next year, just to really to harmonize the discussion, to let everybody knows on both sides what are the benefits of the sharing, open access to information, open access to data, and try to promote a new way of collaborating that's the ocean. And you can see the detail of the charter. There are 9 recommendations that are available on our website on CIESM.org/forums. And it's really easy to read, and there are 9 recommendations that,
Thank you, Michel. I just want to add that participants to the Ocean Sampling Day will have to adhere to our chart on open access and benefit sharing for point source countries. That is very important for us. That's all.
So thanks a lot. And I think it goes in line what we heard, less debating, more implementing. So.
In regards to the maps problem, it's what is the juridical base for quality control? There was a recent debate about some articles, wrong articles, who have been put on open access systems, and science say that they will be never published under the peer review control, but they are published on open access. And it's the same with the maps. If you are publishing a wrong maps on a website, what are your responsibility if you have a disaster with a boat or something like that?
Please. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so I think it's a very important question. So because obviously there is, I would say,
with respect with maps, you have a variety of reaction. You have a reaction of people from a state, citizen from a given state, saying, "Oh, this is not reality. This is." What you said this morning, that the way the lines, the delimitation lines were drawn is not correct, because there is not the stamp from states saying, okay, we have agreed with this line. And even when you publish coordinate in the United Nations database about the law of the sea, you have always a disclaimer from the UN responsible, including the Secretary General himself, saying we don't give any, It doesn't mean that the UN Secretary General agree with the line, with the maps, etc., etc. So this issue of maps, from a political point of view, from coastal state, is a very, very important issue. It's a very sensitive one. So from their point of view, for instance, in the Med Sea, what you can have as a map accepted is a partial map. For instance, in 1 month from now, or 2 months, if we are lucky enough, we will have a definite delimitation between Italy and France, with coordinates, latitude, longitude, etc., etc. We are working very well and very hard for that. And then when you publish just between France and Italy, this is a non-disputed map. There is no way that a French representative or Italian representative say, oh, I don't agree with this map. So you have partial map to be published. But when it comes to a global map at a regional scale, like for the Med Sea, where we know obviously that there is some part when you go east, that there is disputed areas, and so you cannot publish. Then you can make maps as a scientist. Okay, it's your problem. If you have if you have a diplomatic process or a diplomatic channel coming through your foreign affairs and going to your university, etc., etc., the only answer is okay. But this is the freedom of the academy, of a researcher. It doesn't mean that we, as a state, agree with the map. It doesn't mean that. So my main advice is that when you publish a map, put always a disclaimer, always. This is something you know, as a scientist, you know, it's a kind of precaution, methodology precaution, just to do that. But the other point you raised is that, what about navigation? Once again, navigation map are under a very strict methodology. Very strict methodology. And if you publish a map, it's not your responsibility as a publisher, but it's the responsibility of the navigator who follow your map, when he knew that it was not an official map for navigation. So the problem of liability or responsibility at least have to be shared there, and not just put the blame on the person or the institution who published the map. When you navigate, you know what are the institutions who publish authorized map for navigation. That's only what I can say at this stage. Thank you.
So I forgot the disclaimer, no liability on this map.
Never
it doesn't represent the, it just represents even not the opinion of the author, it's just a map.
Remember our friend from Spain.
Okay, so.
Yes, I do.
I remember that.
Now, yeah, sure, sorry.
Please, you should answer, don't let me speak.
I would like to hear the opinion of the last speaker, Igor, I think.
Ivo.
Yeah.
Ivo.
Yeah.
Ivo.
Beg your pardon. Regarding the open access to research products, mainly publications and eventually also data, reporting on the daily experience, we have discussing this in our community. I hope that others may share opinions about that. Provided I'm in favor of open access to scientific products. I've seen two reactions of the community to open access. First, many people think if you pay, then you can publish whatever you want, which is obviously wrong. The peer review process is compatible with open access. You just transfer the payment from the buyer of the product to the one who sells the product. And this is the first. The second is, and it is probably even a stronger concern I see from the people, if I pay and publish my research, anyone, even citizens or scientists with limited resources, can read my products. But people with limited resources will not be able to pay to publish their results. So the consequence could be that the publications will be biased even more toward those who have more resources. So how do you see that?
It's a very valid concern, and I think we're in transition phase where we're not certain which model will take over. There's a number of experiments out there. It definitely, if we just focus on the author pays model for publishing your research, it's not the only way. It's only half the story. It's the one that most captures the media, the attention, the dialogue, because it touches the pocket. It does cause a shift of funds. And there's 2 points of view. One is I'm a researcher. Until now, I had to raise money for my postdocs, for my research group, for myself. All of a sudden, I have to publish 5 to 10 papers as a group per year. This is costing me a lot of money. It's displacing salary money. Yes, that's a true impact. But imagine yourself from point of view of the one running your institute. For them, it has always costed a lot of money to publish those publications and to have access to them. So one message to put through is open access does cause a shift of funds. It does not displace in the bigger picture research funding. Publishing costs money. We have been paying for it. It's just that at the research group level, we never saw that bill. Of course, we're in transition phase in scholarly publishing. It's still, there's a lot of debate. Of course, should the author pay and how much should they pay? There's various experiments. I can't tell you where it's going to go. It's definitely shifting towards author pay in the future. There are a number of benefits of that. And I think one message to take away is, and also Frank mentioned it earlier, I think after the initial enthusiasm of I can pay for and publish anything, including bad science, after that initial enthusiasm of let's go publish anything and publish many numbers of publications, after that we will settle into a reality where the cost of publishing and the need to publish high impact papers will probably shift into a behavior where we no longer publish 10 publications per year. We publish 5 instead of 10, and we spend a lot more time talking about them, making sure that the target audience understands what that paper means, what are the implications for research, for policy, for the citizens out there. And the conversation, the dialogue will spend more time on the post publication phase of our research, and less time on publish or perish rapid life cycle. I mean, it's a little bit controversial, but let's do an experiment as a community. Let's publish half and talk more and see where our impact leads.
So thanks a lot for that comment, which I fully support. I hope Elie also.
Yeah, I have a question to Ivo. Is it possible from the panel from one panelist to another one?
Everybody can ask questions.
There is no incompatibility?
No.
There is
Just
no
in
rule.
English.
As long as I'm speaking in English,
no,
of
fine.
course.
No,
yes,
no.
I understand now the rules. I'm sorry for this morning. In one of your slides, Ivo, you mentioned that Science Tomorrow is from graduate school students to scientists tomorrow. You mentioned that as a process, and one slide in this process you show that at one point in this process you have project managers intervening. What does that mean? That it's to privatize science, or who are those guys? What is the profile of those project managers? Are they teachers in the university, public researchers, or from the private sector? Can you elaborate on that, please?
I'm simply referring to the people running national or EU-funded projects. These people already exist in our institutions. They are part of our research staff. And the reason we don't want to exclude them is because more and more young scientists are getting involved into research programs earlier in their career, and they have to write the proposals to justify their salary. So they have to interact with these project managers. And those project managers understand what are the policy implications of the science, and they are in constant dialogue with the funders, and they understand what the funder wants in terms of openness, transparency, impact, relevance to policy, and interacting with those project managers from a young scientist point of view is very informative to understand the field, which is far away from pure science and not always so transparent.
So, are there additional questions concerning the legal and open access issues?
Hi, Frank, I have one.
Sure.
I'm from the university in the Balearic Islands in Spain, and I have a question for the open access data, so the last speaker. And the question is, at least in Spain, our funding agencies are pushing us to go into technology transfer more and more. And I don't know much about open access data, but I see a conflict between the intellectual property and, for example, the need to keep things secret and not open to the public if you want to patent something. And I would like to know your opinion on that, or how can we play the game of open access together with the imposed, I say, you know, in brackets, because it's not an imposition, it's also a way of transferring our knowledge. But the rules are different there. So I would like to hear your comments on that.
Yes, intellectual property is something that should be considered seriously. Many institutes are very keen on it. It's a strategic importance. Funders are also keen on getting IP right. And when we talk about openness, transparency, and open access to data and all parts of research products, it's not in conflict with getting IP right. What we're saying is we mostly do fundamental science. I don't know what percentage, but let's, for argument's sake, 80% of the research products that we put out there into the world are based on fundamental science, and they can easily be made 100% open at generation, simply to improve the way we do science. There will definitely be part of our science which can be protected with patents, and it's close to market, and it should be exploited for the benefit of the institute that actually generates that research and supports that research. And that needs to be done right. I'm not saying that if you're close to market and if you're producing sensitive research, you should make it transparent as you're actually generating it. Those issues need to be considered. What I'm saying is, of the huge majority of knowledge generated by us, codified by us, a huge proportion of that is not transparent, and it's not accessible, and it's not freely available to our own colleagues across the Mediterranean. So that's a problem in itself, and it is not in conflict with getting IP right. I think we should get IP right by all means. And for those of you, I guess, who are involved in the upcoming Horizon 2020 program and related projects, that's a big issue. We need to have research and science that contributes to blue growth, and it needs to be getting closer to market, and we need to transfer knowledge and technology to market, and we need to get IP right. But that's not in conflict with doing science in an open way.
This is Javier Ruiz from the National Research Council in Spain. Just to comment on my Spanish colleague, I mean, if you go to intellectual property and technology transfer, the system is absolutely transparent, because you have to be very clear in what you have discovered. You have to explain that very clearly in order to convince to the examinators that your invention is really new, is adding something to the system. And then the patent system makes all that transparent and public. Actually, it's a way of open access, because the WIPO office makes all this technology transparent and available on the web. So if you go to technology transfer, automatically that means open science.
So if there are no urgent questions, I would like to close the session. See no urgent questions. And again, thank the audience first for the very interesting and very lively discussion, and see even more our panelists for the excellent discussion that we had, and also controversial in some respect. And now it's time for the lunch break. So hope to see you later on after lunch break, back to the afternoon sessions. Thanks a lot.